And again, we are standing next to a wastewater retention lagoon, and from where we're standing, the wind is blowing in our direction, and there are no offensive odors at all. And in fact, out of a course of a year, I've probably got about 3 days that this puts off a little bit of odor, and that's about it. Most of the days, most people wouldn't even realize that this is actually wastewater in here. So as you can see, the pond or retention pond is a great host facility for ducks and other waterfowl that happen to stop through the area. The nutrient-rich water provides a great feed for them before they start their migration somewhere else. The green stuff on the surface is duckweed, and obviously that's brought in by the ducks. They tend to eat it. It provides a little cover and cools the water a little bit. It's not a detriment to the facility at all. In fact, it's actually part of the treatment process by consuming some of the nutrients that are in the wastewater. Yeah, the shoreline that's exposed there, as we draw the water down heading into the winter season, my job is to lower this to a reasonable amount so that it will hold 6 months worth of water coming in while we're not discharging on our spray fields. Out here in the left side of the screen, this pond looks like one, but it's designed as two. The right side of your screen is where the wastewater would actually be coming into this lagoon, where it goes through a large grinding system that breaks it down. The heavier particles are going to sink to the bottom. The water is going to take on a process and start to decompose the nutrients that are in there. It kind of has a clockwise swirling direction. Before it enters our wastewater plant, it's actually collected off the left side of our picture, which is more of a clarifying side. The particles stay on the right-hand side. As the water moves in that circular fashion, it's going to end up as clear water to our left-hand side of the frame. And that's where our wastewater facility is going to pick it up and send it through its treatment process through the sand filter that we saw and before chlorination. Aeration provides extra oxygen to the water. The actual lagoon is made up of a couple different layers of water in there. We have the bottom that is anaerobic, thus we have bacteria there that does not like oxygen. They break down the stuff that's on the bottom, but we also have bacteria in that working in our lagoon that do like oxygen, so that added aeration system supplements them with some more much needed air. What we are looking at here is the actual treatment facility of our wastewater treatment plant. This system of weirs and waterfalls, in essence, is filled with 10 inches of a fine-grained quartz sand, and as the water spills out into the trough, it dissipates over the surface of the sand. The sand is there to trap small particles of things that might not have settled out in the actual lagoon itself. Basically, it's just a 10-inch sand filter. As the sand filters through the bottom into a hollow cavity, chlorine is mixed with that wastewater before it's pumped out to our irrigation fields that we're going to see in a little bit. Okay, what we're looking at here is the actual treatment cell in its running position. The water you see coming in is coming from the lagoon, the clarifying side. As you can see, it's quite clear as it spills out of the spillway. The water spills off gently to the sides. It's going to settle through the sand before it's chlorinated, and then that water is going to be pumped up to our spray fields up on top of the hill. Well, this is the sample of wastewater that I just collected. I wish I would have used a glass jar so you could actually see how clear it is. That's straight out of our lagoon with no chlorine added or anything else. No particulate matter, just good, clean, recycled water. What we're looking at here, this is one of our 2 spray fields. This is about 7.5 acres. At this point, we've got about 265 gallons per minute being spread out across that 7.5 acres. Each head is matched so that the output is matching the output of our facility, so we're not starting and stopping too frequently, but it will start and stop on its own. A lot of the water out here does get taken up into evaporation into the atmosphere. The grasses that are grown here are harvested multiple times per year by a local farmer who uses it in his farm facility for feed, bedding, and mulch around his farm. Purpose of the grasses out here is that you've heard the saying that the grass is always greener above the septic tank. Well, this water is a little bit nutrient rich, so the grass is very green, and to remove those excess nutrients from the water before it percolates to the actual aquifer, the plants are taking up that extra fertilizer that's in this water and consuming it. We harvest it and then remove it from here, which is what we hire a farmer to do for us. The row that to our right-hand side of your screen is off because we try to mitigate the amount of drift that might be entering the Park Service. At this point, we're fairly light on the winds today, but I wasn't sure, so I shut that one off a little bit earlier. Most of our wind comes from the direction that our camera is looking right now. Drift would tend to happen to the right-hand side and behind us, so we have the ability to shut off rows and columns as needed to kind of control which way the water goes. Windy days, we are not operating up here for obvious reasons because we'd have water all over the place. We're also restricted by the amount of water that can be put out here. Periods of heavy rain, etc., we're not operating. We don't want saturated soil and soggy soil out here. We want the plants to be able to pull that water up and use the nutrients that are in there. Our rate of water being put out is dependent on a couple nutrient levels, but on average, we're looking at putting about an inch of water per day on this 7 acres or so is what we're looking at here. You know, that could be anywhere from 80,000 gallons over both parcels to up to maybe 200,000 gallons in a 24-hour period. We are allowed to discharge for 180 days. That starts at the beginning of May and ends at the end of this month, October. And out of those 180 days, I don't put water out every single day. There are days that I'm restricted by weather, winds and rains and things like that. And about 30 days ends up getting lost to weather. So about 150 days out of the year, I am putting water out here. Between the two fields, a total of about 15 million gallons of wastewater is recycled per year here at the homestead. Sampling wise, every week I have to collect samples of the water from up here and have it analyzed at the lab so I know what my nutrient content is. The amount of nutrients as they go up, these would be total inorganic nitrogens, which would be ammonia, nitrate, and nitrite. Those three numbers added together gives me a composite score they call TIN, which is total inorganic nitrogen. As that elevates through the year, the amount of water coming out onto these fields decreases proportionally to that nutrient increase. The rainbow effect is always kind of nice to see out here. It's very common early in the morning as the water crystals refract the sunlight that's shining on them. To our right a little bit, you can see that white post. That marks a monitor well, and we have deep wells in the ground that basically monitor the aquifer. They are approximately 180 to 250 feet deep, depending on their location. Samples are drawn from those quarterly just to see what the effect on the aquifer that's a couple hundred feet below us, how this water is actually affecting it. Okay, what I'm doing now is just collecting a sample from the sample tap here of our wastewater. Just want to know what the chlorine content is going into the water. So we're going to grab a vial, add a little reagent to it. We're looking for a nice red color indicating a good strong presence of chlorine in there. That color right there represents about 3 parts per million of chlorine. So the two samples that I've just grabbed here, this one is now the quote treated water sample that'll go to the lab. This is the same exact stuff, but this one's going to be used for a bacteriological sample. We want to know how much fecal coliform might be in this water. Permit-wise, I'm allowed a monthly average of 4 samples of up to 130, with no single sample heading over 300. Those are the numbers that I think beaches use for closures, etc., due to fecal coliform that we've heard about in the news. This bottle we're going to do a little more intricate testing on. We're going to find out what kind of nutrient content we got in there. That tin I spoke of earlier, those results come from this. We also check for phosphorus, sodium, chloride, and pH level of that water. Well, this is our second wastewater discharge field. This one is about half the size of the other, about 3.56 acres. I alternate between the two fields so I'm not oversaturating one. The soil content on this particular parcel does have a little bit more clay to it. Water doesn't quite evaporate, it doesn't dry quite as fast. So this one receives less water than the other one, less than half of obviously the amount that would go on the other field. It's given a little more dry time in between, but at the same time you can see the grass is growing quite well and nice and healthy here as well. Currently it's not running because I ran this one last week quite heavily and it's drying out, and we're using the other one. What we're looking at here, this is one of our monitor wellheads. We have 10 of them spread out around the property. These go all the way down to the aquifer, and quarterly I'm required to draw samples from every one of these because we want to ensure that the groundwater is very high quality and that the nutrients being put on the ground aren't leaching into our groundwater. And to this point, they are not. So this is the close-up of the monitor wellhead. To power these, we bring a portable generator out, and there's a pump at the bottom of this well about 180 feet below us, and a sample will be brought up out the faucet, and those are taken to the lab and analyzed to see what kind of nutrient content we have. Okay, here's the grass that we've got here. It's starting to get up towards knee-high. Probably next week or so, at the end of the season, I'll try to get our local Leelanau farmer back in to cut and bale the hay. We've got a local farmer that's wants this stuff. It's a usable product. He uses it on his farm for feed for some animals, it's bedding for others, and it's also used for mulches around his orchards. And each bale weighs about 1,200 pounds, and we produce anywhere from 12 to 15 bales every time he cuts. Right now we're looking at the Stony Brook Lodge, which is on top of Brook Hill here at the homestead. We've got 20 or more lakeside view rooms in here with panoramic views of Sleeping Bear Point and Sleeping Bear Bay on beautiful Lake Michigan. Okay, we're here at the source of wastewater. We're here to explain to you what wastewater actually is. Wastewater starts at a faucet somewhere as drinking water or wash water of some sort. 99% of wastewater is just water. It could be simple fact of just washing our hands. We're washing down just a little bit of soap, but a lot of water is being used in that process. Making coffee, running our dishwasher, all of these are contributors to wastewater. It's just not the bathroom things that creates all of this waste that needs to be treated. Dishwasher, from what I understand, is more economical and uses less fresh water and washing them in the sink by hand, provided you've got a nice full load to run. Things that don't belong in a wastewater stream. We should not have plastic products, coffee grounds, coffee filters. Don't run that stuff down your garbage disposal, because that adds to the treatment process that has to be taken care of in the end result. To reduce the amount of wastewater at the homestead, we've installed low volume toilets, shower heads, and faucets that use less water to reduce the amount of wastewater that we have to treat in the end. What we're looking at here is one of our 2 wells that we have on the property. This is an 8-inch well that is about 180 feet deep, deep below the shoreline of Lake Michigan. Our other well's a little bit smaller size, but about the same depth, and that one's located actually inside our treatment facility. This is a 6-inch well. It too is about 180 feet deep. Okay, this is the other half of our drinking water treatment facility. Our chlorine injection system is on this side. State law requires that we put chlorine into the drinking water as a precautionary disinfectant. We also take a battery of other state required tests of our drinking water on an annual basis to make sure that it meets the highest standards. If you're interested in the content of our water, you could request a copy of our Consumer Confidence Report, which contains all of those parameters. Okay, we were speaking about the chlorine that we put in our drinking water. State law requires that you put in 4 parts per million or less, 4 being the maximum allowed in drinking water. We are putting in about 1 part per million of water in there. But our wastewater, we put in 2.2 parts per million. A little bit higher, but we're still well under the drinking water standard. Well, at the homestead, the wastewater has to get to our lagoon somehow. We use a series of pumping stations called lift stations to get the water up to the lagoon. We're in the front lawn of the inn right now, and this is the notorious lift station 5. And it's our largest lift station we have on the property. Down this ladder, which goes down about 20 feet, is 2 large pumps that take all the water that runs downhill to this point and pumps it up over the top of the ski hill into our lagoon. There's the bird's eye view looking down to lift station 5. At the bottom of that ladder, off to the sides, are 2 large pumps that send the wastewater up over the hill back to our lagoon. Here's just a peek at our laundry facility here at the homestead. We've installed high-efficiency washing machines that use the least amount of water possible. They also do all of their cleaning with cold water only to conserve energy on hot water use. And we use phosphate-free detergents to make sure that that doesn't enter our wastewater stream.